Part 2. Chapter 21. Garfield Estate, Bristol, England, June 5th, 1889. A summer storm hung low over the grounds of Garfield Estate, the clouds blown in from the sea. Lightning sliced through the thick, humid air as heavy droplets pounded against the windows of the large house. Haley was glad she had installed electric lighting in the manor. The idea of having a fire lit or having gas lamps burning in this heat seemed unbearable. She lay sprawled across a chair, a book resting open on her lap. Her eyes were glazed over and half open, her mind sleepy and dull in the way which is so often brought on by these warm, hazy rains. Her thoughts wandered aimlessly through a fog as thick as the clouds above her house. It was the pounding at the door which truly jerked her back to awareness. Haley looked around, straightening the grey shawl across her shoulders. Perhaps it was her imagination, warping the crash of thunder into a more tangible sound. It was too late for anyone to be at her door, well past midnight at least. Haley began to settle herself back into her chair when the knocking came again. Frantic, booming knocks against the large wooden doors, which echoed ominously through the halls, almost as loud as the raging storm outside. Haley pulled herself from her chair, running barefoot through the halls, feet sliding on tiles and rugs and polished wood. She arrived at the door and pulled it open. A flash of thunder illuminated Strawberry from behind as Haley dragged open the heavy door. The woman's thick red hair was stained a dark brown by the rain and was plastered to her horrified face, making her appear livid and ghoulish in the darkness. Makeup ran down her cheeks, although this was likely caused by the heavy sobs which racked her breathing alongside the rain which pelted down upon her, drenching her clothes. A carriage pulled away at the end of the driveway. "Strawberry!" Haley pulled a shawl closer around her shoulders to shield herself from the raindrops which blew in through the doorway on a heavy wind. God, Haley, I didn't..." Strawberry stammered through heaving breaths. Haley stepped aside. "Don't just stand there, Mumbu, come inside." She blinked at the other woman, shocked. "You'll catch your death in the rain, honestly." As soon as Mumbu was inside and the door was closed, Haley disappeared to fetch her a towel and some fresh clothes. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows and walls around them as the two women moved in silence through the house. "It's all right. You're all right now," Haley said, placing another towel over Strawberry's shoulders. Mumbu nodded, gazing into a newly lit fire which filled the room with a stuffy, dry air. The room was a little hotter than was comfortable, perhaps, but the localized heat was better for drying the drenched botanist. She grasped a cup of tea in her shaking hands. "I'm sorry to have arrived in such a state," she said after a long while. Haley picked up the book which had been thrown from her lap and placed it back on the shelf. "It's quite all right, Strawberry. Only, why did you arrive, exactly? Did something happen? Are you hurt?" Mumbu shook her head. I'm afraid it's not me who's hurt. It's who I have hurt that's the issue." Haley sat down beside her friend and placed a soft hand on her back. "Who have you hurt, Mumbu?" she asked quietly. Strawberry's whole body shuddered as she began to cry once more, struggling to keep her emotions in check. It was Jamie. I have done something unspeakable. Haley, I don't know what overcame me, but I thought I was doing what was best for them. Truly, I did, but I was worried and scared and angry at them in a way, and I thought I only wanted to protect them." Haley wrapped an arm around Mumbu's shoulders and pulled her closer. She waited for them to calm down before pressing further. "What did you do, Strawberry? Where is Jamie now?" "I don't know," Mumbu said after a long moment. She took a sip of her tea, I don't deserve to know. You mustn't say that, I'm sure. What did you do, Mambu? Strawberry took a deep, uneven breath. I received a letter from Easton. They claimed that Jamie had a house, a cottage that they didn't want me to know about, and that Jamie was sick with whatever's infected Ray. Easton told me that Jamie needed to be contained before the infection could spread to more people. She sniffled and sipped her tea again, trying to delay the words which had to come next. I went to see Jamie, and they refused to return home with me. I didn't know what else to do, Haley. I had to keep them there, keep them and others safe, and I locked them in there, in the cellar of their own home. They had food and water, I made sure, but God, I locked them in there alone. Haley's face paled and her arms stiffened around Bumbu. How long did you leave them there, Strawberry? She asked. The words felt detached from her, as if someone else was speaking them. The whole situation seemed unreal, so far beyond anything she would expect Strawberry to do. That was 5 days ago, Mambu croaked. I wanted to let them out, but Easton wrote to me again and told me that I had to wait. They said that they would go there first with the cure, but they didn't. They never did. She shook her head. And I waited as long as I could, but the thought of Jamie there alone, my poor baby, She shuddered again. I went to let them out today, hours ago, but they were gone. The door had been smashed inwards, knocked off its hinges, and Jamie was just gone. That's good, isn't it? Haley asked uneasily. They're not in there anymore? Mambu shook her head. Not if they're infected by the disease, as Ray is. She sucked in a shuddering breath. If they are, they could be spreading it as we speak, completely unknowingly. They could be delirious and in trouble. And if they were never infected, if it was all a mistake, then what kind of mother am I, Haley? To imprison my child like that? To torture them in that way, trapped and alone? Strawberry, I was just so scared. Mambu leaned into Haley further, pressing their body against hers. I was scared for myself and for them, and I was angry at them for keeping their new home a secret and locking me out of their life. I had seen what was happening to Ray, the madness and the pain, and the thought of that happening to Jamie. I just wanted them to be safe, she sniffled. And instead, I fear I have subjected them to so much more pain. Haley was silent for a long time as she processed the story. I'm sure Jamie will understand in time, if you explain. They are very mature. If you only apologize, how do I apologize for that, Haley? How can I express my thoughts when they will only see me as the monster I was? The monster I am? How can I ever expect them to look me in the face again, let alone forgive me? Strawberry's voice faltered. How can I ever expect them to let me hold them again? You're not a monster, Strawberry. Mambu took another sip of the tea. Perhaps not. But if I am not a monster, then I am simply a terrible mother, and I do not know which of those I would prefer to be. Haley shook her head. You're not a terrible mother either, Strawberry. You made a mistake. A big one, perhaps, but you're human. Jamie will understand. They will come back to you in time, I'm sure. For closure, if not to forgive you outright. Perhaps they're with Ray. Strawberry nodded slowly. Perhaps I should have gone there to look for them. Maybe I didn't know where to go. I needed to tell someone to get it off my conscience. I needed a friend. Haley leant back a little to look Mumbo in the eyes. You will always have a friend in me, Strawberry. You know that. You can always come to me. I'm not going anywhere. Mumbo nodded again, raising a hand to hold Haley's arm. Thank you, Haley. She wiped away the tear from her eyes. God, I'm really falling apart. She chuckled sadly. It seems the world is falling apart around us. I think you're allowed to crumble a bit yourself. Strawberry nodded. If I go to London to look for Jamie at Ray's, will you come with me? Haley paused for a second, then nodded. Of course, Mumbo, but wouldn't you rather Sherbet be there with you? They do live in London, after all. Mumbo nodded, but there was a concerned expression on their face. Yes, of course, but they've been distant recently. They haven't responded to my letters. I even sent a telegram and received no response. I would rather know he would be there with me than simply hope they might be. Not to mention, I'm afraid the sickness may have overtaken them too. Haley rubbed Mumbo's shoulder. I'm sure they're all right. Sherbet's likely just caught up with trying to cure Ray, that's all. We'll see that's the case if we go to London, I'm almost positive. Mumbo yawned. Yes, perhaps you're right. Thank you, Haley. Of course, Strawberry. Do you wish to stay here for the night? We can prepare to head to London when you are in a more stable state. Yes, I feel that would be best, if that would be all right, Mumbo agreed. It is getting late. I would not want to keep you up any longer. Haley looked at the clock above the mantel. It was indeed very late. Will you be all right if I leave you alone to retire for the night? You know where my room is, should you require company. Mumbo nodded. I think I'll be all right, yes. I'll come find you when I'm ready. Thank you. All right. Haley stood up slowly, a hand lingering on her friend's shoulder. Good night, Strawberry. Good night, Haley. Haley left the room, slowly making her way upstairs and peering around the corner of the banisters to get a last glance at her friend. Eventually, she found her way to bed. Mumbo sat in front of the fire for a long time, staring into its dancing flames. The cup of tea had long gone cold before she finished it. In the light of the dying fire, she drifted off into a dreamless sleep on the couch, momentarily relieved of the guilt and fear which hung so heavily on her shoulders.